First of all, let me ask you, did you get a bulletin? Were there bulletins? Oh, this morning we were sans bulletins, so nobody knew the news this morning. But I hope that you will all join us at 3 o'clock across the street, down a little bit, at the Knights of Columbus Hall, who are so gracious enough to host us for the reception for Father Reinders in that wonderful 40 days after death, or we fudged it a little bit for him. So to have that time just to be together, to enjoy ourselves, to sit and have, I don't know what kind of pizzas, and 6-foot subs, and the drinks you have to buy from the Knights of Columbus. So they're going to help us, and we're going to help them. So I hope to see you there from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and there's to be no leftovers. I can only eat so much pizza. It is always good to be with you, and for our news of the week, all the priests were asked to gather with Bishop Picanis on Friday. Friday was a very eventful day for the priests in the diocese because we also got to celebrate the parting of June Kellen, who was our chancellor for many years. June was an angel to the priest, and as you know, the chancellor is supposed to be the advocate for the priest. And she was a very gracious advocate for us because there are many situations that we find ourselves in that we need to talk to somebody about. In authority, the bishop, of course, is busy about many things, so the chancellor is his right-hand person. And June came in during the administration of Bishop Moreno, and then continued at the request of Bishop Picanis during that very tumultuous interim time when we had the scandals and the debt for the diocese to pay off. She suffered a great deal. She suffered a great deal for the priest also. If you want to talk in mystical terms of a victim soul, this is one in our own diocese who has offered her life for the bishops and the priests of the diocese, as well as the deacons and the religious and the lay people. So we had an opportunity to say goodbye to her. She is in very, very poor health, and so we are going to support her in our prayers, and she lives right by me, so I get to visit her often. It was also an eventful day because on Friday, the bishop asked all the priests, the religious, and the laity to participate in a capital campaign for the diocese. As you know, the diocese has been in dire straits for over 40 years. And for 40 years, we could do hardly anything. The cathedral is falling apart. So the cathedral being the heart of a diocese, the cathedra where the bishop sits, his seat where he teaches, is a focal point because all of the priests are designated to teach the orthodox truth in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ from him. So the interior is falling apart, the exterior is falling apart. The reason being the priests have always voted not to put money into it so that it could go to the living stones, the people. The bishop is asking to raise $28 million. So I assured the bishop that we would do our part to raise the $28 million. Our part is 26 of them. Is Pinocchio's nose growing here? No, we don't have quite that much. Thank goodness we're not St. Thomas the Apostle. He fainted. But Bishop is hoping also that people will be so generous that we will go over that. The reason being that for so long, everything was on hold. Our buildings are falling apart. We are not fully staffed as a diocese should be. The priests have constantly said no to an extended retirement commitment. so that the money could go elsewhere. Well, now we're to the point where we have to look realistically at health care for the priest. One of the aspects of the portion of the pie is $14 million for priest retirement and care. Now, as you know, secular priests have to take care of themselves. That's why we're on a salary from you and you pay our salaries. But most of that goes back either into the parish or for people who need help. So, you know, that's a hard thing. So we had $600 a month to retire on. And many of the priests were not able to get into Social Security at the time, so they have no Social Security. So they have to work by doing masses here and there if their health holds up. Also, health care, as you know, for everybody has risen. Insurance, the priest has to carry his own insurance for his car maintenance, and as you know on fixed incomes, if your car goes out of whack, that's it. So the priests are always very careful about how much they ask. Even though we should have a living wage like everyone else, there's the expectation that we should live like below the poverty line, and we don't even get food stamps. So we have to be very careful about that. But because health care is so important, and if a priest has a catastrophic illness, the diocese has to take care of him. The diocese came out with a manual saying that the priest now has to pay for his own burial. So it's rather hard for many of us who have given our life to the diocese to be told that we can't bury you. And so we're trying to raise enough money to have a decent burial. And that's kind of hard. But we want to also identify with the poorest of the poor, but it's also a burden on our families who are then told you have to bury your priest brother or son or what. So there's something that we really have to do to look realistically at health care for the priests in their retirement. Now, we hardly ever retire, so we're not going to spend a lot of money on ourselves. The other thing is social services for the diocese. Schools, and my question was, what about our homeschoolers? Do they get a portion of the pie? Nobody could answer that one. And since we're very unique in and of ourselves because we're a traditional church, where does that put us in the lineup of receiving funding from the capital campaign? So I went up after the presentation was over and went to Bishop and said, well, does this mean that we're going to participate as St. Gianna's Parish? And he said, oh, by all means, we're going to participate. So I didn't get us exempt from it, unfortunately, but it's a good thing. Because as he and I were talking, he told me that he officially made me your pastor for 6 months. And we're doing it at 6 months increments because of the whole situation with the hospital. And I might have to make a decision either to leave you and stay at the hospital or leave the hospital and remain with you. That's putting me in between a rock and a hard place. I think it's kind of unfair to ask that question of me right now. But I wish to serve you with all my heart. And after the end of 6 months, if I can find somebody much better for you than me, you will have them because you deserve the best. I will always be part of your life. I will always be going to school, I'm sure. But I will be with you in some way or another if I can't continue with you. But for right now, Bishop is very happy to name me your pastor. And he knows it's a very kind of waiting period for us because we're in a transition.